Retirement, right.
retirement.
Retirement, exactly. No actions needed on that. And then the new hires.
We will be doing a recognition for Ms. Castleberry at the next board meeting, because the timing and getting an award, so we're looking at doing a recognition.
Good.
Nice long time.
Great lady.
Then we have our new hires. I'll go through those.
You need information, or?
No. Any discussion on those hires? Nope. Other matters, school board training. Everybody got, did everybody get this sheet?
No, it wasn't attached this time.
Okay.
Review day.
Everybody's hours. Just a couple of
Okay.
sheets.
Everyone met the tier 1, and everybody but Andrew met the tier 2, and he's doing training hours. I think that was because of a meeting that we had in March.
Yeah.
That's and then tier 3, everybody has met that requirement, and tier 4, everybody's met that requirement.
Now, there is the Senate bill ongoing, I think it's, I don't know the Senate bill number, but everybody has training, except I think Mr. Bisco and maybe possibly you. So that will be coming up that we'll have to do.
And I think part of that with Andrew was just that we did our training in March rather for our team building, and you just haven't done that yet. So.
And I talked to Holly Teague, and she is certified to do Team of 8 training, so looking to try to utilize her.
Good, we need to schedule that and get that done. Get that done. Good.
I didn't know.
Okay. And next is the superintendent's report.
Can we start with campus reports?
Okay.
All right, campus reports. Who's first? You want to start backwards this time, or we want to go?
Are they awake?
We let them off the hook.
Okay, go look like this. Got more stuff to do.
Start with Dwayne.
I'm just both tests. I'm just trying to make it through.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Lots of fun things going on at Delaney and a lot of hard work too. As far as our student achievement activities, we completed kindergarten through 4th grade, our second curriculum assessments this week. It's been a fun week, but they've also been working hard. We started the week with that. The teachers have already analyzed their data and have begun PLC meetings on action plan based on that information. Our 4th grade students presented their living history projects on Wednesday, and that was, they did a great job on that. That's where they research a Texas hero, and they have a visual board, and then they dress up as that person, and you push their button and they share with you as if they're that person. And they went all out. They were very nervous, but so eager on the day to actually share. They would push my hand. But anyway, they worked really hard, and it was really fun to see them be proud of their project and share that with parents. Came up and witnessed that on all the grade levels, had scheduled times to go into the classrooms and get to participate in that process and to hear the 4th graders present their projects. As far as community collaboration, I just am very humbled and appreciative of several different community organizations that have partnered with us in meeting needs of our families, from the fire department to several churches, Life Fellowship Church, Compassion Church of Christ, Covenant Life Baptist Church, even the high school also helped us with that. And so we're just very appreciative of that. And so hopefully that will take a little bit of stress off some families. I mean, the holidays are a great time, but it also brings some stress on as well to some families. So we're hoping that will help. And then I just really want to highlight, as far as a teacher, Miss Jurchison, our choir teacher, because The students have worked really hard in class, but they have also performed a lot in the month of November and December and have put a lot of time outside of school as well as in school for those performances. And I just really appreciate the work that she has done, the students and the parents. The parents are getting them there early. They're taking them to the different places that they performed. And so I just wanted to highlight her this evening. Any questions?
Good.
Thank you.
Oh, well, yes.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, the question from the board that you now answer in your reports was, how are your students, our students on your campus doing? And you provide a lot of information, and Dr. Vu and Mr. G gave us an assignment. We had to read a book.
Yes.
Okay, and you may have read it, and it's not for today, but at some point in time, can you come back and tell us, because we're looking at up here, what's the one thing that you could use on your campus, or that you can change on your campus, or that you can do on your campus that will improve student performance? What's the one thing? Not for today, just.
Right, I will.
I mean,
yes.
because we're up here, and I think sometimes we get disconnected, and I don't blame anybody. It's just the way the process works. But
And
you know,
they're in about the same process as you are, because they are reading the books as well. Each of our campus principals were given a book, and we're in the stages of working with them through our principal PLCs. Start homing in on those one things. When we talked about the RISE presentations, of really honing in on what's going to make the biggest difference, bang for the buck on their campus.
And I appreciate you all wanting to know that, and I think that's good, because you can try to do a lot of things, and you can do a lot of things not well, and do one thing really well and have a bigger impact. So that's something that we'll reflect on, and I want to do with my campus as well and leadership team. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Braun?
Good evening. Okay, we have a few things we'd like to highlight. We were awarded a $2,000 grant from the Education Foundation, and we used that money to purchase hands-on manipulatives and things to kind of make more engaging small group activities. So we were very excited about that. That was spread out across all the grade levels with lots of teachers. So that was fun. We were officially awarded the Kaboom grant yesterday, and we're very excited about that. The official bill date will be sometime in the spring. Kaboom will contact us after the holidays with more information. The company sponsor is Belk, and they just recently built a store in Mansfield, and they're eager to participate with Patterson. We had 2 pajama days donated by 2 of our families to help raise money for the Kaboom, and that was pretty mind-blowing that much money was raised for that. So that was the Camden Vickers family and McKinley Garza family. So that was very unexpected and helped a lot with that. Miss Warren, Miss Poor, and myself traveled last Friday to Lindale ISD to observe their redirect and refocus program, and that's to provide guidance and information for some programs that we're trying to implement for positive behavior support strategies. We'd like to thank the high school band, theater, and choir for coming out for our Christmas performance. That's always something we really look forward to. The kids love it. They really get into it, and so do the staff and everyone. So we are very thankful for that, as well as the soccer team and the coach coming out and greeting our students. Sometimes the sports will come out and greet our students on a day when they're getting out of the car, and they love to see those high school students. So that's always a treat. The city of Arlington installed a no left-hand turn out of our, I'm sure y'all are aware of that. And now the city is actually, the police are actually helping to enforce that. But it has made things a lot safer, a lot less cross traffic, and we appreciate Todd Lee coming over from the high school to help assist with traffic. That's been a huge help. I'd like to highlight Ramon Sanchez. He's in 1st grade. He is a shining star. He works very hard, and he is a class role model. He's very responsible and is always kind and helpful to his classmates. And then we'd like to highlight Mr. Odell Nickel. He works very hard daily on our campus. We have, as you know, been short with our custodial staff, and he has been working overtime many days, coming early, staying late, and he keeps a smile on his face no matter what we're asking him to clean
That's
up
a great idea, or great attitude.
or fish out of the toilet. So he's doing amazing. So we are
Great
very
attitude.
thankful for his good attitude. So thank you. Any questions?
One big loop, right.
Good evening. All right, tomorrow our teachers will be looking at their most recent curriculum-based assessment data and forming small groups based on the needs of the students. We're going to do that the first half of the day, and in the second half of the day, we are going to be looking at those areas of need and writing lesson plans for intervention. So giving the teachers time to really dig through the data, see where the need is, group the students according to need, and then actually writing out the plans on what they're going to do to provide intervention. So that is what we're doing tomorrow. Our sixth graders spend about 10 days in language arts and social studies studying about John F. Kennedy. And so this year they went to the sixth floor museum to finish up that topic, and so I got a lot of positive feedback about students making connections from what they've learned in class to actually going to the museum, so that was a neat activity for our sixth graders. We have lots of clubs and organizations that are putting projects together. Our Future Cities group is creating their Future Cities to present at UTA on January the 26th. We have our Whiz Quiz team, which is a trivia team that's meeting after school to prepare for their meets that will start in February. And then our musical cast is working hard to present the Little Mermaid musical that will be coming up. We had a event called Lunch with a Loved One, where students got to invite a family member to have lunch with them, and that was the first year we've done that at Arthur, and so it was a huge success. I also received a lot of positive feedback about that. Last Friday night, we had a dance at Arthur to raise some money for the high school's after prom party. That was a huge success and turnout. To also support our musical, we'll have a Chick-fil-A night on January the 8th. And then a student spotlight. I wanted to spotlight this student. When I went into his classroom, he had out his data binder, which is something we have started this year, and he was actually looking at the areas of need for him and then picking lessons on Education Galaxy to help strengthen his knowledge of that area in language arts. So I was really happy to see that initiative come through like that, and so I wanted to spotlight him. Any questions?
Can you explain the Day of Awesomeness that y'all had?
Yes. We had a fundraiser. Our PTO put on a fundraiser where all the students need to do is submit email addresses, and so the company sends out emails asking if they'd like to donate money to our PTO. And that was a success. They can get little prizes, but the big celebration of it all was today, and we have a Day of Awesomeness. And whether your family participated or not, every student in the school got to participate. And there were bounce houses, Kona Ice was out there. They had the hamster rolling wheel, human hamster wheel. Out. Lots of different games. And each grade level got to spend about an hour and a half out there. And everyone was involved. It was very organized, and the kids had a lot of fun. So it was a
seems like all the PTOs at every campus right now are really just nailing it. And I don't know, we've always had one campus that seems to be a little behind, but they all seem to be just really great right now. And
Yes.
the kids love that. I know they help a lot with parties. They've streamlined parties at Delaney. Like, it's just seems very seamless and easy, which is nice because then you can have more people come participate.
Yes, we had a great day of that, but I really am very also appreciative of our PTO. They are anything we need. I mean, they're constantly asking, what do you need? What can we help you with? And they're a huge support. It's been good.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
All right. So we have a lot of good things going on at the junior high. One of the things I want to brag about is that our 7th grade UIL team were runner-ups in the UIL competition that we had this week. And great team. It was in Alvarado. We went last year, but this year there were some competitions that we had never participated in before, and we kicked butt. We did a really good job. 7th graders, and I've never heard of this before, but our 7th graders had 100% attendance rate for this grading period. I've never, like, what is that? What is that? I was amazed. They like school.
Y'all keeping that school clean.
Yes, absolutely. So we're really excited about that. This week, the Women's Place did a presentation over personal safety, and they discussed like cyberbullying. They discussed digital citizenship and just how to remain safe online. And it's a conversation that it's ongoing because you hear about so much, and luckily in this district I haven't had to deal with it a lot, but in previous districts, every Monday parents were coming with their cell phones about all the stuff that happened to their kid over the weekend with Snapchat or Instagram or whatever. So I think that our kids do a pretty good job of and their parents of monitoring what's going on with their kids. So we had the Women's Place come in and talk to the kids about how to better stay safe while you're online. So that was really good. Our student council had their Angel Tree outing this week. Well, actually it went last week to Target. We had a fundraiser. They were able to earn some money to buy some gifts, and today those families received those gifts, and that's a great feeling because the kids got to participate. They actually got to see what their hard work was able to do for other families. So that was wonderful. We also had our teachers. We're working through RTI, and every Wednesday we're doing this. And I know you guys might not know it, but in secondary, that's almost unheard of with RTI stuff. Elementary and intermediate do a fantastic job of tracking their kids and seeing where they are, and RTI's response to intervention, and they're able to say, you know, these are the things that are working with kids and what's not working with kids. And then for some reason, once it gets to secondary, it falls off. And so what we're doing is every Wednesday we are meeting with those teachers and we're putting that information in, and so we can look engage. It's hard data. It tells us where we need to go and what direction we need to take with our students. So the teachers are responding very well to it, and I think it's going to help with our instruction. And speaking of instruction, we had our presentation for our Fundamental 5. We went out of order from the book that we're reading because in the short span of time that we have, we want to get our money's worth. So we want to focus on the things that are going to have the most impact in the classroom. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about the small group purposeful talk and reinforcing and recognizing positive behaviors. And it's fantastic when you get to go into the classroom and actually see teachers doing it. So they're really implementing the things that we've talked about, and they're talking about how much it's changed their instruction. So it's still a work in progress, but we're seeing some teachers that are implementing it. So really excited about that. And then thanks to the school board members, we have narrowed our candidates for the AP position down to 5 applicants out of 57 who applied, which I was excited about because this time of the year, you're not going to have that many. So our leadership team is set up, so we'll start interviewing when we come back. So we're really excited about that. And then I have to say, I know that Eileen is probably tired of me talking about it, but facilities in any district I've been in is always slow to get things done. And it seems like whenever we put something in, it gets done here. And so Eileen and your crew, thank you so much. I showed up for after Thanksgiving break and I was like, something is different on this campus. And literally had to walk outside with the secretary, like, what is, we all got new windows in the front. It's like, yes. So from the windows, new mirrors, we're getting some cameras fixed, installed, a lot that's happening. And so I'm just thankful that, like I said, anytime I feel like when we have a need, it gets taken care of. So it makes my job easier and it helps with our teachers. And so tonight I actually left from our hangout night, which is another fundraiser our student council is doing. And hangout night is just a fun time, safe place for our kids to have fun at school, play volleyball, basketball, throw the football around, and parents just pay a few dollars for us to babysit. So it's a good time. Any questions? All right, thank you.
And I will echo our maintenance department for the few numbers that are in it do amazing things with what we see in our district. So very, very proud of those guys.
Spent a lot of time at the first meeting and got to see a lot of the good things. And so I do want to tell Ms. Braun that if they enjoyed the high school students at their campus, next year, the week before Christmas, we can send our freshmen. So we'll start with that. But a couple of things. In the coming months, I want to talk a little bit, and I know that Mr. Clark and some of our grateful dads that have been shaking hands, I would talk to them a little bit. But tomorrow we have course proposals due to the Department of Curriculum and to Dr. Vu for new course proposals, and we'll be bringing some things to you in January. We are working a couple of things to revise CTE course names and courses that align with the changes the state made this past year. We are also looking at developing some MOUs with TCC and expanding into having welding opportunities for a select group of students at the high school. They are going to give us six spots over there potentially, and so we're going to look to see if that MOU, but that's something we're going to bring to you to vote on. And that with culinary is starting to round out a pretty good CTE program for a school with lots of different opportunities for our students. And then we are looking also to expand our dual credit program and going with the University of Texas new dual credit program called On-Ramps. It's not new, it's about 5 years old, but we got to take a trip to Castleberry, and they hosted us for about 3 or 4 hours, and we went and saw several of their courses and got to answer questions with a panel of students, teachers, counselors, administrators, and those kind of things, and hear the pros and cons of that program. And so we are going to look to add to some courses that add to our program and not take away from anything. And so I think that's where we look to start, but that's what's coming up in the future. But we are thinking already about 2021 and the programs we offer. The last thing I think I'll say tonight, and is tomorrow's the last day before the holidays. I do want to wish everybody happy holidays. Mr. Clark, you did have a question. What's the one thing?
Well, you don't have to answer it now.
Well, the one thing research would
show
show that affects student learning the most is good teaching. And so I appreciate the board with generous compensation packages and supports for our teachers, and the $500 that was part of that compensation package that was given out in November, and good facilities, good maintenance department, and those things. It is a lot easier to retain and hire teachers when you have all those things. So thank you.
All right.
GT.
So we shared with you a draft of the updated GT handbook. to reflect just some updates to the state GT plan. There were a couple of things in HB3, some things that we needed to update. I provided each of you a one-page summary of the changes. Mr. Strange had two really good questions. He said, what feedback did you get from the stakeholders? Excellent question. And then the second question he asked was, I can't remember exactly, but basically talking about your equity policy, what does that mean? What are the differences? Just to clarify, the new state GT plan required an equity policy because across the state we have certain groups of students who have unidentified students. So that speaks to an equity issue. Like there are some groups who are regularly identified. So just to kind of give you a little bit of context, in the past, students are screened in second grade across the state, and then you can have teacher referrals and you can have parent referrals, and that's where you move forward. So in the same way that we are now required to do a dyslexia screener in K-1, they do the screener, and if they are flagged in this particular case, then they'll move forward with the next step of the evaluation. It's the same thing with GT. So because we've looked, and if you look at the bottom of the one-page document that I gave you, you can see some discrepancies in our GT identification at our two different elementary schools. And that's something that we really want to work towards ensuring that all of our students who are gifted in certain areas, that we are identifying them and that we're providing services to meet the needs of those particular students. So we have a plan we use MAP for our universal screener. So the way that it works now, and I brought our GT specialist as well, so correct me if I'm mistaken, this is Dr. Ashley Spencer. The way it works now is that according to the universal screener, if they're one grade level or above, then they're flagged, and then they move on to go forward with the rest of the evaluation process. So there are some students like some of our English learners and some of our dyslexic students who may be gifted, but they're not necessarily going to be flagged on the universal screener that's looking at math and reading and science, right? So they may have areas of giftedness that aren't necessarily flagged. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the top 5% in each of our sub-pops. So we're going to break it down by demographics in the same way that they look at the taper. And in those sub-pops, we're going to include dyslexia, we're going to include English language learners and bilingual students. And so we're going to take the top 5%. So maybe they're not the top 5% of the whole group, but they're the top 5% of that subpopulation, and then we're going to move forward and do the additional GT screener. So that's something that Dr. Spencer has talked a lot about with other GT specialists in the Metroplex. That's what a lot of other districts are doing as a way to just maybe identify those students who aren't identified now. So we did something similar in my previous district because we had similar issues. This isn't a Kennedale thing. This is just, I think it's a system thing, at least in our state, that the state has recognized, and we're really rethinking it. So in one setting, we identified 18 English learners for the GT program at a single campus in 4th grade. They missed it in 2nd grade somehow, but when we went through and we did this different kind of testing, we had a huge population of students who qualified for services, who would benefit from the services, who we were able to identify. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think it's going to be awesome. Just looking at the numbers, just that, I feel like we have some students, some unidentified, underrepresented populations, we'll say, some unidentified students, and this is an opportunity to start reaching out to them, identifying them, and meeting their needs. So do you have any questions? So we've highlighted the changes for you. I know it's a lot to read. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll take them now, or you're welcome to reach out to me via email or phone. I'd be happy to talk with you about them. This isn't something that has to be approved by the board. We just wanted to share it with you and just let you know that we have some updates, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Question?
Are you finding that you're trying to catch those kids at, say, 4th grade? Are you looking at a way of catching them lower?
So we're going to start in kindergarten.
Okay,
this
I
year.
noticed
We're going to
that.
start in kindergarten. Yeah. This is a brand new process that we're rolling out this year, so we haven't moved forward with it yet. As I said earlier, we're laying the foundation with some policies and structures that we're putting into place that are going to allow us to gain momentum as we move forward. Yes, we're going to start in kindergarten.
Okay.
We're going to go all the way up.
Well, I'm sure that y'all will do this, but just from the teacher point is usually those are the ones that they can do it on their own and stuff. And I know if we get these sub-pops and there's a dyslexia one in, all that stuff, we're really going to have to change how we've directed and taught and that stuff in that GT deal, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But it is something to, to be aware, because I know we made GT guidelines like, they're doing these projects, they're doing these things, which will definitely affect that. But that's a great.
Our whole program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think it's important, you made a really good point, is that areas of giftedness, so maybe I have an area of giftedness in, math. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have the same area of giftedness in writing. And so sometimes, and I struggle with this as a teacher, oh, look, that kid's GT. Why can't you do that? And so I have to really shift my own thinking and remember that, we're all different and we're unique human beings. And when we're identifying these students, it's not to say that they're necessarily going to excel in every single area. So part of looking at the handbook, twice exceptionality. So sometimes we have students who, have a learning disability, but then are also gifted in a certain area. And so what we're really trying to do is target the individual needs and opportunities for each student, as opposed to just treating everybody the same. We're trying to think about how can we be responsive to the human beings that we have sitting in our classrooms.
And I think this is where the strengths finder, everybody has strengths in different areas. And I think that's where that's crucial for the understanding. So, all right.
Also from the students, a lot of students have been told things they can't do. And this is going to give a lot of kids an opportunity of things that they can do. And if nothing else, peer pressure will push some of those kids to do better at some of their weaknesses because of their association with other people that are
and
stronger.
An opportunity to connect with people who maybe have some similar interests and some I'm really excited about this and the opportunities it's going to create for our students.
All right. Any other questions? And were your questions answered, Mr. Strange?
No, this is great. The two things I do want to highlight that they added. In the policy, it said, making changes on there. So I was just asking, what were those changes? So you see here the feedback and the changes that were made. Under the kindergarten screening, the teacher and GT coordinator feedbacks, and they noticed that it was subjective and difficult to collect, and so now they're making changes to make that a little bit more streamlined and process. And then under the equity policy, talking about using the map to serve as the sub-pop screener. So now there's one screener that serves all the students. I mean, I've said this before, I'm a big proponent of the map. It shows student growth. I'm very leery of how the state has said things like all third grade and all fourth grade, and well, if you just came from another country and you only have 1 year, that's not equity. That's the exact opposite of equity, to say that everyone at this age can be the same thing. So the map kind of helps. It does help teachers to see where they're at and then what their growth is, knowing that not all kids grow at the
And we're
same
going to
level.
do it consistently. That's the biggest key.
And I think as a parent, over time, they now have one thing that they can look at year after year after year. Is my kid growing in a certain area? And now I have one thing to show me.
So we rolled out K-8 math this year, and the goal is to move to K-10 next year. The implementation process, like any new thing, has been, we've had lots of opportunities to grow and learn.
That's what I put it.
We've had some challenges, but yeah, so we're here, and so we're going to move up to high school next year, and we're going to add the science portion, which I think will be really valuable for a lot of different reasons, and we're going to add the writing portion as well.
Moving backwards to the superintendent's report, the item A there was the election calendar.
And Tracy put this together. She and Kim went to a conference down in Austin for election cycles, and she put this together for your information as we come into our May elections. So.
Comments or questions? That's not an action item, obviously. All right, the board discussion. I have some items on here. Agenda items, superintendent's evaluation.
All right. I'm going, based off of what we had our previous discussion about on the strategic planning and looking at what we're trying to do with the maps, which we just discussed more here. Let's go that way. There's no way we're going to be able to, do we not have enough? Sorry. Have a baseline in time for January to incorporate some of those things into what we talked about in our previous meeting about the evaluation. Some of our programs with maps won't even start until the first of the year. So having a beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. So what I'm proposing is that we stay with the former evaluation. And then eventually the last section where it talks about the district goals, incorporating those 4 goals that I propose on the strategic plan in replacement of those. So they're not on here right now, but we'll be voting. And then as we get a baseline, by July, we should start have numbers, and then we can start setting what those criteria will be, showing progress toward that measure. Leaving the other part of the instrument intact for now. And if there are any revisions you would like to that document, then we can discuss it, you know, and you can talk with me, and we can add things, delete things, and before January, and I can get it out to you before then and make sure everybody's good with it.
Can you provide some space, if you want to use this instrument, for us to comment on why we are scoring you in a particular? Do you want that information?
Comment section?
Well, under each of the categories, do you want to go, I mean, do you want to have an opportunity for us, if we score you a certain way in a particular area, to have information on the report as to why? I mean, under each section. I mean, just some space. I mean, I know last time I did, I ended up writing on another sheet and had to bring it over, and it's kind of hard to keep them together. Okay. So maybe just provide us some space to give you why we're rating you the way we're going to rate you.
I'm just asking, refreshing my memory, did we come up with these criterions, or?
I believe this is pretty much the TASB.
This is TASB, okay, I was like, where did this?
I think it's off of the superintendent criterion that are established through TASB.
Okay.
Do you think you know, when you first came on, you kind of gave us an outline of what you were going to do. Do you want to restate that and let us rate whether we think you accomplished what you, I mean, I know it's hard to say it's all been accomplished or not accomplished, but you laid out, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I think you should be rated on what you said you were going to do versus what you have done, if you can include it in here in a way or place that's appropriate.
Yeah, look under which criterion it might
I
fall
was going to
under.
say I guess we could revisit that. Were there particular things that
Well, you
you
came
want?
and said, I'm going to lay out a strategic plan, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I mean, I'd like to, from the standpoint of you accomplishing what you said, I think it's important to show that you accomplished those goals when you did.
I gave you a 180-day plan.
Right.
You know, and I think we could use that as a definite measuring mark, you know. I'm comfortable with that.
I think it's important to have some data. I mean, again, you know, how I
Like
feel
include
isn't
that with
important.
it, so that
What
we
you
can-
accomplished
I
is.
don't remember everything you said.
You want me to provide the data of what I've done in those areas? I'll do that.
I mean, this should not be totally subjective. This should be somewhat data-driven.
Okay.
I like to have that opportunity.
We've in the past, we've turned those into me or the board president and given you a combined document that doesn't call individual. You know, the comments and everything are just in a section under each of them. So you can have them that way, or you can have each individual one. It's fine with me. We've done that the other way, just so that you could kind of see an overview of the whole board's evaluation rather than an individual board member's evaluation. But
I think Brian and I can figure out where maybe you can all have like your input, and then it cumulatively, you submit it, and it cumulatively tallies it for.
Right.
You put an electronic format, I think we can answer it. I'm not the best typist, but I can get it done.
Well, we did.
That way you're not trying to input each person's stuff,
Can you put it in
whatever.
good notes where I can write it? Right. Or print it?
Did that with Excel last year.
Right, we did it with Excel last year, and they just sent it to me, and then it just totaled it and tallied it into one sheet.
All right. So data driven based off of my 180-day plan, right? And then we're going
Where-
to eventually incorporate replacing those last 4 goals that are on there with the 4 goals that I've presented in the strategic plan. And I can, eventually we'll have baseline and have ways of measuring that as well.
The 108, to me, what I heard was the 180-day plan is included into the criterion. But what you just said was, are we still using the criterion?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I'm
in
just
addition,
making sure.
in addition.
In addition to.
It'd be hard to incorporate
I
that
think
into
you'd
this.
find if you look back, if you saw the 180-day plan, you look through this and you look at the 180-day plan, you know, and if you got suggestions, we can tweak it, you know, we can figure out how to tweak those things to where it aligns more. Yeah.
I'd just leave the
Well, what
TASB
I'm
alone.
thinking like is if you have your 180-day plan and you can say completed or working on, hired Julie Vu, you know, whatever those things were, I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but you know, is that what you're talking about?
Well,
And that way we
where-
can see.
Where it would fit. So maybe that fits under criterion 1, or maybe that part of the plan fits under criterion 4, like, not as to me, not two separate things, not this and, not the goals, your 180-day plan and the criterion, something over here, but putting the two together, to me, that makes more sense.
Now, John had, I think on our previous meeting, when we discussed this, had talked about incorporating those state standards with the 3rd grade reading, 3rd grade math, the CCMR, incorporating that into the superintendent's evaluation
Again,
some way.
it's something that we can objectively determine year to year.
And that's why I said, I suggest replacing those KISD goals at the very end with those.
I think the goals at the end are fine to change, but I think if you start messing with the core of this, it's gonna make it really hard to read our data from year to year. And that's
No, I'm saying
one nice thing is using the TASB form,
We
we can
just
kind
said
of
replace the goals.
gauge.
going forward.
Okay. Now, next question I have is, when do
He
you
has no scoring on these.
normally get these to start reviewing them into?
It's in policy, board policy.
Like 2 weeks.
2 weeks before?
It does say it in there, but it's like 2
Yeah,
weeks.
that you
And
give them to
then,
me, and then it has the specific dates that they're supposed to turn them back into me, and then I put them together, and then I have a meeting with you to go over them, so that if you have any questions or anything about responses, then I can call a specific board member and ask them for an answer to that, and then we present it to you in the board meeting.
Okay, that answers my question. All right, anything else on that? Okay.
Anticipated agenda items calendar, everybody got a chance to look at that?
I'm not proposing a work session at the January meeting. I know we've got a lot of things. We've got our audit coming up, and we've got a TAPR reports that we have to do. So there will be other reports that we'll have to do. So, and then my evaluation will be at that one as well. So that will, that's gonna be a pretty busy meeting.
might be sick.
January 23rd.
Might forego,
They're like,
yeah.
I'm coughing on the tooth.
It's not your turn, it's not your turn.
That good with everybody?
Do we need more time that day?
What'd
I
you
was
say
gonna
that
say,
again?
do y'all wanna start earlier just because of the amount of things we may have to cover? Start at 6 on that one and just make it a regular meeting at 6?
Yay or nay?
Yay.
I think we need more time.
So
I'd
6?
rather go a little bit earlier
That's
than
23rd?
be here at
Later,
midnight because my brain stinks. Sorry.
You with that, Julie?
Nothing on that date right now.
Okay.
23rd I can do.
So the 6th, so 6 o'clock for the 23rd meeting.
Let's make sure we get that out to stakeholders